Welcome, everybody, into a brand new episode of the Brickyard Podcast. We are coming to you live on a Monday night while watching the Seattle Seahawks and Texans game. Don't usually record Monday, but had to get it done today, this week. But we have a ton of blowouts to go over from week 7. Potentially some of the best games of the year sprinkled through there. We had the Icy Hot Bowl on Thursday night. Then we're going to be previewing week 8. And then also, we have to go over our 5 worst teams and our 5 best teams coming out of week 7, heading into week 8. So, who are the 5 worst teams coming out of week 7 into week 8?
Yes. Let's first talk about who has graduated from the worst top 5. Of course, you get a win, you get off the list. The Cleveland Browns, they have graduated from the worst top 5 this week, blowing out Mike McDaniels and the Dolphins, potentially leaving him homeless after potentially being fired. And then the Ravens, they won their bye week. They did great. Bye week, didn't really put much of a fight up. The Ravens are excluded from the worst top 5 of this list. Honorable mention to having 2 primetime games on Monday night, having a game on at 10 p.m. That's a shout out here. And then how about a shout out to the week slate that we're about to cover? The fact that we had mostly blowouts for the most part. The 4 o'clock slate put me to sleep. Honorable mention there. But at number 5, I hate to do this because this team is a lot of fun. The New York Giants, you blew a 19-point lead in the fourth quarter. You had a 26-8 lead with 5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. You look like you were completely blowing out Bo Nix, and then you fumbled the game before our very eyes within 5 measly minutes and lost by a field goal. Your kicker missed 2 extra points and a missed field goal as well. Missed opportunities for the Giants. Hopefully they graduate next week, but Giants, you blow a 19-point lead, you make it on the worst top 5. At number 4, I'm not going to pick on this team because this team is just genuinely a bad team, but the Titans, you're 1-6. That was not a pretty game against the Patriots. I understand the Patriots are red hot. I wouldn't want to face Drake May either, or my former coach either, but bad team. Number 4. Titans got to be at number 4. At number 3, talk about a team that did not even belong to be on the same field as the Kansas City Chiefs. The Las Vegas Raiders, 31-0. There was not even a single point. You had Gardner Minshew taking knees before the 2-minute warning, just saying, yeah, you can have the ball back. We don't even care. We know you're not going to do anything. You had Chris Jones pulling out the vodka in the fourth quarter, taking shots with other players on this team. They didn't even belong in the same court. Raiders at number 3. They fall. Number 2, how about a blowout? Not only just a blowout to a bad team, that's 1-5, but to the Cleveland Browns, the Miami Dolphins at number 2. The week before, we had Kamani Vidal for the Chargers become a superstar for them. And now, this week with the Cleveland Browns, you have Quinshawn Jenkins becoming an absolute force for them. 3 touchdowns. You have a pick 6 from Tyson Campbell as well. You get absolutely belt to whip, belt to ass by the Cleveland Browns. At number 2 goes the Dolphins. And then at number 1, I'm sorry, if you don't have a win halfway through the season, how am I supposed to put the Jets anywhere lower than number 1? You have Justin Fields. It took you 7 weeks to decide that Justin Fields was not the guy when I knew he wasn't the guy in the preseason. Now you have Tyrod terrible in this game. You're going to probably go after someone like a Russell Wilson potentially, or maybe Kirk Cousins dons the Jets uniforms. But Jets, number 1, 6 points against the Panthers. Disgraceful. Worst team, according to the Brickyard.
Yeah, and it's crazy because it's like as soon as the New England Patriots are good, they just suck the life out of every other team in that division. I don't know what it is. We see other divisions that have multiple teams who can be good and somewhat competent franchises, but as soon as the Patriots are good, I mean, the Jets had their window between Tom Brady and Drake May. What did they do with it? Absolutely nothing. They were just one of the most disappointing teams year after year. I believe they peaked at 7-10 That was
Mhm.
the best output that they had. And then the Miami Dolphins looked like they were potentially going to dethrone the Bills. They're one of the young, exciting, up and coming team. But sometimes those young and exciting, up and coming teams never really materialize into anything. And then just the Patriots slowly drawing off the power of that whole division right now, where now you have not just one team, but two teams from the same division at number one and at number two in the top five worst teams. And for the Jets and the Dolphins, like sometimes teams can redeem themselves off of this list, but the way they lost this week is insane. With two straight weeks without a touchdown for the Jets, and then, I mean, the Dolphins going to Cleveland and allowing them to score more than 17 points for the first time this season in the rare Lefty Bowl, which made that game even uglier.
It made it uglier, and the fact that Tua has thrown 3 picks each game the last 3 weeks and has taken the throne from Geno Smith as the most interceptions in the league. And then you can just see with the press conferences. Mike McDaniels, I counted in a 1-minute span, had 37 ums in his press game conference. We have to be better. Terrible. So the Dolphins, they are glued to the top 5, as are the Jets. But negativity is not what the Brickyard resembles. We are a positive affirmation. We appreciate greatness on the show. So as much as we love having our glasses half empty, it's time to get our glasses half full and go over the pillars of excellence in the NFL, the best teams according to the Brickyard.
Yeah, we have the best teams according to the Brickyard, and I have a couple honorable mentions. First of all, the Indianapolis Colts. I would love to put you here. I'm just not ready to do it yet. I mean, with Daniel Jones as your quarterback, it's just I guess I'm just not quite ready to wrap my arms around the Indianapolis Colts to elevate them to a top 5 team, especially with the other teams on this list. So, honorable mention to the Indianapolis Colts. But then we go into our list. And at number 5, we have a team that temporarily dropped off this list, but now the Rams come storming back onto this list because not only do they get a massive 30 5-7 win versus the Jacksonville Jaguars, their biggest win so far this season. Matthew Stafford is now leading the league in passing and total touchdowns so far, and now he has his numbers up there. He's also one of 8 quarterbacks to have 5 touchdowns with under 200 yards passing in this game. Devontae Adams had a similar stat in this game where he had like 36 yards receiving, but he had 3 touchdowns. So the Rams were just cooking all day. And then the Jacksonville Jaguars, whose offense has been fine, they've been able to kind of move the ball, didn't get across midfield until they were down 28 to nothing. Absolutely embarrassing stuff for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And what makes it even more impressive, it seems like the Jaguars had powers in London where no matter how bad they were, whenever they would go to London, it seemed like this team would just snap out of it and then play amazing. And they were Super Bowl champions in London. So it seems like the Rams have vanquished that from the Jaguars. So at number 5, we have the Rams. At number 4, um, New England Patriots. Still the Patriots. They are atop their division. Drake May has 91.3% completion, which is a Patriots franchise record. In this game, he was just calm, cool, collected. And then Mike Vrabel ends up giving him the game ball in this game. This was where Drake May really took control of this team. And now you're seeing him elevate wide receivers like Kayshon Boutte, like no one really saw this coming. Where this is a guy who had the issue with the gambling problem, and now Stephon Diggs is really coming into his own as a leader. And then Ramondre Stevenson started to pick it up in this game where he had 88 yards rushing and a touchdown. So if he can fix those fumbling issues, and he is coming off a knee injury that was pretty gruesome last year, so this team definitely has room to improve. And rumor has it they are aggressively reaching out to teams trying to get another receiver. Could it be AJ Brown? Could it be Chris Olave? We don't know. But what also matters is their defense has been destroying teams all season. They actually went out there and beat the Titans the way you're supposed to beat a bad team. Definitely respect that for the New England Patriots. You're also on here because your schedule makes it so you're probably going to be 13-4 by default just because of how easy it is. So at number 4, we have the Patriots. At number 3, we have the Detroit Lions. Detroit Lions come out here, get a big win on Monday Night Football. Dan Campbell is now 13-3 on primetime ever since he's taken over the Detroit Lions, which is the best record in football. Also one of the best coaches coming off of a loss. You have that tough Sunday Night Football game, and now you have another Monday night game where you go out there, beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and coming into this game, what I want to see was the Lions defense really make it hard for Baker Mayfield, especially when you're dealing with that many injuries on offense, and they were really able to poke holes in every aspect of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers game on offense. And looking at how good the Chiefs were this week, you can definitely give the Lions a pass for that game. So at number 3, holding strong, still the Detroit Lions. At number 2, I mean, what can you say about Jalen Hurts? He had a perfect passer rating this week, and some of the throws that he was making to AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, some of the escapes that he had versus the Philadelphia Eagles were absolutely ridiculous. And then on top of that, the Philadelphia Eagles defense stopped the Vikings offense 6 times in the red zone. And they were able to force the Vikings to either have a field goal or turn it over on down. So that defense also stepped it up. And you saw a real Super Bowl championship team go on the road and then snap out of a 2-game funk. They're on a little bit of a skid here, but Jalen Hurts showed everyone why he is that quarterback who's gotten to 2 Super Bowls and won 1 already. So with the perfect passer rating, have the Philadelphia Eagles and Jalen Hurts. At number 1, I mean, it's the Kansas City Chiefs. 31-0. This is their first shutout since 2011 in almost a decade. And then they only allowed, how many first downs did the Raiders have in this game? If you're just watching like, oh, it's 31-0. Like, yeah, when you see that score 31-0, it was 31-0 because the Raiders only had 3 first downs all game.
Jesus
3
Christ.
first downs. So the Kansas City Chiefs defense came out there, and now Patrick Mahomes is upset. Rashee Rice came out here. He had 2 touchdowns already. Hollywood Brown is getting involved. And then I keep mentioning Hollywood Brown. I'm like, he's going to look a lot better when he has Rashee Rice take the pressure off of him, which is also going to make every other wide receiver better on your team. That's exactly what we saw versus the Raiders. And now the Kansas City Chiefs look upset. And then Patrick Mahomes looks like he's kind of looking around at the media where everyone's de facto talking about the Bills over the Kansas City Chiefs, saying the Bills should be the Super Bowl favorite. And the Chiefs are just like, have we been watching the same NFL for the past half decade? No? Okay, now we actually need to come out and remind everybody who we are, what we're about in Kansas City. And now at number 1, we still have the Kansas City Chiefs because, I mean, we can get that game out of the way. That was a absolute beat down when you're taking knees on the other side of the 2-minute warning and the other team isn't even taking timeouts.
That was one of the most demoralizing losses I've ever seen for any team. And I didn't know about the 3 first downs, but that is just, I mean, that speaks to their defense, right? Chris Jones, everyone talking about, oh, is he the same player? Absolutely. They had the ball for 42 minutes in this game. And then I'm looking at the numbers for the Raiders, 0 for 7 on 3rd down. You had 2 passing first downs, 1 first down from penalties, but the Raiders had no answers for him. They ended up with 95 total yards, less than 100 yards. Couldn't get anything done there. Ashton Genty, nowhere to be found in this game. And this was just a complete and utter beatdown in every sense of the word. What the Chiefs have been doing to the Raiders the last decade at this point. So, again, just a massive beatdown. Common theme with the games this week. But, yeah, we had Ashton Genty, 6 for 21. Just couldn't get anything going whatsoever.
And do you think this is just like a Chiefs team, that this is unfair how we've been treated by the media all year, where everyone was ready to count the Chiefs out so fast this season? They're only a game back from their division lead now. I believe they're tied for the division lead with the Broncos now that the Chargers have lost.
I believe so.
But you have a game like this where you beat the Lions and then you go 31-0. Like, this just felt like a statement to the NFL that said, hey, we're just getting started. This is Rashee Rice's first week back, like it's time to stop all of the headlines about the Buffalo Bills, because as soon as the Chiefs are good, the Bills have to kind of fade away.
Yeah, this felt like a statement game for sure. Rashid Rice came in, didn't miss a beat, 2 touchdowns. We still have Travis Kelce. Juju Smith-Schuster made some key first downs as well. And now the receiver core, which has been a problem historically since Tyreek Hill left, I feel like to a lot of the NFL media. And just absolutely nothing. Shout out Devin, by the way. We got Mr. Eldred in the stream. Shout out to Mr. Eldred. Thanks for hopping in for us. Hopefully he's watching the Seattle game. But the Chiefs, they finally have a good receiver core. They have Rashid Rice, got Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown's in the mix, Travis Kelce, although maybe not the same player, still effective for them. And then their running game is what also got going in this game as well. We had a big game from Pacheco, waking up a little bit. So just an absolute beatdown in every sense of the word.
Yeah, no, this definitely felt like a Chiefs team that is about to go back to the top of the AFC. And, they gave the NFL a break and they waited until week 7, but they weren't doing this to teams last season. They were kind of just sleepwalking through last year. It seemed like Patrick Mahomes was kind of bored, to be honest, at points, but now I haven't seen them this locked in and engaged probably in like 3 years, because they've had like back-to-back seasons now where they kind of just lackadaisical sleptwalk their way. I believe before last season they were 11-6. 2 years ago, kind of just stumbled into the playoffs. They were the 3 seed, and then they go to Baltimore, take care of business there. But do you see anyone that can even pose a threat if they're going to play like this in the AFC? Or are we just locked in for another Chiefs Super Bowl going back to back unless Joe Burrow can come back or New England's the real deal on defense?
I don't know, because I don't trust the Bills. The Ravens obviously aren't doing anything either. And then who else is there? Like, I don't trust anybody in the AFC South. AFC West at this point, the Chargers are depleted injury-wise. So it's like, really, like, the only hope could be the Patriots. Like, the Patriots are the only team that can stop them. And if you look at the last decade, they're the only team that stopped them last time. Like, the last team that actually stopped them was the Patriots with Tom Brady. So it's like, I genuinely think we're going to see the Chiefs again in the Super Bowl, because I don't think we're going to see any of these other AFC teams make that jump. Buffalo doesn't impress me. They're going to need to get a wide receiver. Patriots probably need a wide receiver as well. And then maybe the Bengals, but I don't trust their defense. So it's like the Chiefs, you can't really poke any holes in their game at this point, because all around their defense is great. They obviously have the coach. Their running game is starting to come into order. And now you have Rashid Rice. So the Chiefs, they just seem inevitable at this point.
Yeah, and then we had the Thursday night game, and we've had quite a few good Thursday night games in a row, and I had caught on to a pattern that was a brewing, as I said on last show, where it seemed like every single Thursday night game we're getting upset, and said, you know what? The Bengals offense can't be this bad forever, especially when you have Trace Brown, who went off in this game, when you have T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. And, Joe Flacco targeted Jamar Chase 23 times in this game. And if you want to win in the NFL and you have Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, maybe you throw it to your best receiver 23 times. And some of the throws that Joe Flacco is making, it wasn't Joe Flacco messing up. It was Jamar Chase sometimes getting hit in the hands and not catching it. He had one pass where Joe Flacco hit him in the hands. So they could have had even more catches than he had. I believe he finished with 16 overall. And then we saw Joe Flacco take the Bengals all the way down the field to beat the Steelers in a game where the Steelers had 3 different tight ends catch a touchdown, which is only the second time in NFL history that this has ever happened. And then I was watching the game with my friend. We're like, we haven't really seen a Pat Freiermuth sighting. Darnell Washington has been the most targeted tight end in the league. And then out of nowhere, Pat Freiermuth has 2 electric touchdowns. Like, where's this guy been all season? They just gave him a big contract, but overall, incredible game.
Yeah, Pat Freiermuth, that big 68-yard bomb to him. Aaron Rodgers played well in this game too. And then Joe Flacco. This is a guy who's had one of the most interesting NFL careers, maybe in our lifetime at this point, both with his Ravens era, where he had one of the greatest Super Bowl runs in NFL history, and then journeyman a little bit, has this renaissance with the Browns, Now he's having a renaissance with Cincinnati. Like, Joe Flacco is in this conversation where I know a lot of people aren't going to put him in the Hall of Fame, but he needs to be in an extra tier above Hall of Good because he's been electric. He throws a beautiful ball. And I don't know why Jake Browning couldn't have picked this up, but yeah, you give it to T. Higgins and Jamar Chase on 75% of your throws, and good things happen, which is why we saw this offense explode. Chase Brown woke up, which he's had some bad luck this year. He rushes for over 100 yards, finally getting over the hump there. And now if the Bengals can get their offense going, they're 3-4. They're only 2 games back of the Steelers. Every other team in that division looks like they're not going very far. So we could see a scenario where Joe Burrow comes back. Bengals are still in the mix. They make the playoffs potentially. This is the one team that has stopped the Chiefs over the last 5 years. So I think we're in for an interesting sighting. And Joe Flacco, he has been successful. He was successful in Cleveland. So I like what we did. I think him getting onto the Bengals is going to be good for everybody involved.
Yeah, and how crazy is it that Chase Brown had 11 carries for 108 yards? He's averaging 9.8 yards a carry in that game. And then how often do you have a wide receiver get more targets than your number one running back has carries? I mean, it wasn't even Joe Burrow playing, and then Joe Flacco goes 31 for 47. Like, that's pretty good for a 40-year-old quarterback throwing it 47 times. I mean, 31 for 47, and then 342 yards passing. He's averaging 11 yards per attempt in this one. And then you look at the Bengals' last 5 games. Believe only one of them is against a team that'll probably be in the playoffs, and the last 4 are going to be cupcakes. So this is definitely a team that they play the Steelers again pretty soon here. So if they beat the Steelers in both games, then we have a real race at the end of the season for this division, because I think they play each other like 2 out of the next 4 weeks, something like that.
Yeah, the Bengals schedule, they face the Jets next week, 0-7. Then they face the Bears, and then it's the Steelers again in Acrisure Stadium. So you're going to see the Steelers very soon. I got to say, though, with the Steelers, I really like what I've seen on offense for them. Aaron Rodgers, clearly it was a Jets problem and not an Aaron Rodgers problem. He played well. The 2 picks, he had 1 pick that was really bad, but the other pick was more of a big play for, I believe it was Joey Porter that intercepted it from DK.
On DK.
Just stole it. Yeah, who just stole it from his hands. That was just a great play on his part. But Jaylen Warren, amazing. Played great in this game, averaged 8 yards a carry. Then we have, obviously, DK, which his stats are kind of deceiving in this game. 3 catches for 50 yards, but he was always open. And then, obviously, this was the big Pat Freiermuth game. We had 5 catches for 110, 2 touchdowns, had a 70-yard bomb at one point. He wakes up. I've been wondering where Pat Freiermuth is. He's one of those tight ends that I feel like is super underrated in the NFL. He wakes up, and suddenly the Steelers, where I feel like the last pretty much since Big Ben has had an abysmal offense, whether it was Kenny Pickett or Mason Rudolph, Russ, Justin Fields, etc. Now I feel like they finally have their guy, and their offense is actually fun to watch. And maybe there's credit to Arthur Smith there, but they have a fun offense, and really now it's just their defense. Can their secondary clear up? Can they make those stops? But I feel like time will tell. I think they're ultimately going to come back, and maybe TJ Watt also comes back in this game as well.
Yeah, like what this game showed, like albeit a loss, it showed that Aaron Rodgers can still throw it. He still had them in a position to win this game. I mean, if you have TJ Watt and that defense for the Pittsburgh Steelers with Alex Highsmith, Patrick Queen, Jalen Ramsey, you expect to be able to finish a game like that. But what did you, I guess, last thing about this game, Aaron Rodgers plays well, but you have the touchdown. He's running towards the sideline and he gets tackled by his own teammate. And then he like gets up pissed off at him, like, "Hey, what the fuck are you doing, man?" Just like, can you understand the frustration of that? Or do you think that's just kind of maybe wait till you're in the locker room to flip out on him?
Yeah, I understand his frustration there. Runs it into him. That's just bad fundamentals. But I feel like maybe could have waited until especially because it was near the half, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't know. That's kind of been the Aaron Rodgers meta for his entire career. But he needs a Super Bowl. He needs to win a Super Bowl. So I see that he's frustrated there. But maybe wait till the locker room there. But kind of a boneheaded play by his teammate in that case, running into him. But great game overall. The Tylenol Bowl did not disappoint. The Icy Hot Bowl, I think, is what Joe Flacco called it. But everyone was clowning it going into it. But this was one of the best Thursday night games of the week, or of the year, I should say.
Yeah, we've had some good ones too. And then we've had some pretty bad London games. They've all been kind of mid. At least this one had scoring, albeit a track meet for the Rams. But I mean, Trevor, 23 for 48. Yikes. I mean, he's throwing it 48 times and he's completing less than 50% of his passes. No interceptions, but he was sacked 7 times in this game. The Rams were all over him. And it seems like the Jaguars have finally chosen to pretty much just play Travis Hunter on offense now. And some people are like, well, maybe put him on defense since you're struggling on that side of the ball. But I'm kind of the opinion you kind of do need to figure out what side of the ball you're going to play Travis Hunter and commit to it, because it seems like, I don't know, he's kind of just losing out on both, whether it's reps with Trevor Lawrence just being in the game and it's holding their offense back, or if you're going to put him on defense, I feel like he's going to have to pick one, maybe use him in certain spots.
I feel like he's better as a receiver right now. I mean, he had a huge game in London, but I just feel like for them, like the way Brian Thomas hasn't really been effective for them this year. I feel like the receiver core is fairly weak for the most part. I feel like you need him more as a receiver at this point. Use him as a receiver, and then maybe utilize him in the running game as well. But I agree. Like, which one is it? Like, you can't just have both. This isn't Shohei Ohtani. Like, you can't have a player playing both sides of the ball every snap. He's not going to survive. The nutrition is just not going to work for him. You need him as a receiver. So I think they should just play him on offense at this point, or just like pick one side at a time. Like, he's effective as a receiver for him. So get him that continuity with Trevor Lawrence and just stick with it instead of just having this 50-50 on both sides. Like, you need him all of the snaps for offense at this point. So I think Travis Hunter should just be on offense.
Yeah, and I feel like with Trevor Lawrence, since you did pay him so much money, it's time to like actually give him a real offense and stop playing around. It's not fair to Trevor, but yeah, this game was just ugly for the Jaguars. They've kind of been teetering for me, and now I'm kind of confirmed that maybe this was just a September Warrior team, and they're gonna probably fade off.
Yeah, I agree. And then for the Rams, right? Matt Stafford, 5 touchdowns in this game. We had a big game for Devontae Adams, at least as far as touchdown wise. But I look at the stat line, right? Like, the Jags had over 100 yards more total yards than the Rams. But ultimately, the sacks, the penalties, the sloppy play is why they ultimately lost this game. But 35-7, like, the Rams just absolutely manhandled them throughout the entire game.
Yeah, no, it was brutal. I like turned this game off. I'm like, oh yeah, this is a blowout. I'm just going to rewatch the condensed game after this because
Yeah,
Sunday
you made the
mornings
right
are
call.
tough.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. I woke up same time as every other London game. I wake up, I'm like, oh, it's 35-7. Got it. Okay, I can go back to sleep. So it's
Yep.
just ridiculous, especially when the game's at fucking 6:30 for me. Ridiculous. Let's get another blowout out of the way. Should we talk about the Patriots and Titans game?
Yeah.
I mean, we knew that the Patriots were going to be favorites in this game. They take care of business. We had a Josh Dobbs sighting. If you're a friend of the show, you know we love Josh Dobbs. We got to see him. One pass, gets a first down, makes it happen. Jake May comes back. 21 of 23, 222, 2 touchdowns. Highest completion rating in Patriots history at this point. Also rushes for 62 on the ground as well. And you're starting to see all the receivers get that rapport. We had a big catch from Demario Douglas, Keyshawn Butte, 2 weeks in a row, making big plays for them. Stephon Diggs being that leader for them. And this team just looks like a wagon. You look at the rest of their schedule, they're playing great, and they're playing good away from home, which I feel like for a young team is important. So I like what I've seen from them. And obviously, this isn't the best competition, but your defense is playing exceptional. Your offense is firing on all cylinders, and you have the aura with your team that I feel like they're due to win another. They could win another 3 or 4 games in a row, and I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, especially it showed this game that they actually respond to their coach. And I do think When you face a team like the Titans, you want to just go out there with the killer mentality and blow them out. They were able to go out there, dominate this game, and then they were able to pull Drake May. And what Drake May has done is given Mike Vrabel the greatest gift you can, is just he doesn't make mistakes, and it seems like he makes the right play every single time. He didn't need to throw a touchdown to beat the Buffalo Bills. He understands what he needs to do just to win the game already, which I feel like is what's missing from a lot of these young quarterbacks, or as long as you don't force the issue, as long as you don't make a dumb player beat yourself, like 70% of the time, if you're the better team, you're probably going to go out there and win that game. And it gives this team a huge advantage in the playoffs, especially when you know how good that defense is and he's fine living to fight another day, not forcing it. So I think that's really the biggest takeaway with Drake May right now, is he hasn't had to do a whole lot and he's not out there just chasing his stats. So it looks like, oh wow, he had 350 yards and 3 touchdowns, but maybe he had to force a turnover to get that.
Yeah, and I'm looking at his stats too. He's 75% completion rating now puts him at the top of the NFL. So he's making all the right throws. He's not turning the ball over. Hasn't had a lost fumble. Only has 2 picks on the season. And it just feels like he's getting better every week. And this offense seems to be gelling better and better. So Patriots, especially with what we've talked about, they face the Browns next week, the Falcons the following week, and Jets earlier on their schedule. So this is a team that they've already won 4 straight games, but I feel like they're due to win the next at least 2 games before they run into Tampa. But they look great. They look like they can beat just about anybody at this point.
So do they have the Falcons in New England?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, the Falcons are cooked.
Yeah, they're not going to beat the Patriots. And then
speaking of cooked, the Bears beat the Saints for the first time since 2008.
What the hell? It's been that
Yeah.
long?
2008.
That's a long fucking time. I was 10 years old when that happened.
I was 7.
I don't even know. Was that Jay Cutler? Was that a Jay Cutler win for the Bears back then? I don't even know.
Probably.
But good for them. Caleb Williams didn't have to do a lot. This was a DeAndre Swift game all around. He had 124. He had a touchdown. I think he also had, another catch on the ground as well for him. But big D Swift. We're seeing D Swift kind of come alive for the Bears. Will this continue? Hopefully. We know that Ben Johnson likes to lean on the running game. They had 200 rushing yards in this game. And then their defense played very well. They got 3 big interceptions from Spencer Rattler, who hasn't really been turning the ball over all too much for them. So I think this speaks more to their defense and how they performed in this game, shutting down the passing game for the Saints and stopping the run ultimately. So I would shout out the Bears defense with how they played.
You know, Bears defense went out there, did exactly what they needed to do to win this game. It's a big win, especially coming off a bye. This is a team that's now won 4 games in a row after starting 0-2. A lot of people were doubting Ben Johnson, but you're starting to see that even though Caleb Williams isn't necessarily performing as a franchise quarterback yet, the offense overall and the defense, like, it's starting to look like a legitimate, at least complete NFL team right now, where maybe they won't win a playoff game, but at least they look competitive and they look better than the Bears. I mean, have ever looked. At least you have to go back to Mitchell Trubisky and the Matt Nagy era with how good that defense is. But I mean, the offense looks good, especially with the running game. It's just, are we going to see Caleb Williams break out later in the season? Because it still does concern me when D Swift is the driving force of your offense. Like, how sustainable is that going to be once we get after Thanksgiving? So that would be my concern with the Bears.
Yeah, that's the big thing, because I feel like later down the stretch, as these games start to get tougher in November and December, you are going to need to lean on Caleb Williams. And I don't know for sure if I can trust that he's going to be the guy that helps them get through these tough December games, November games. But he looks a little bit better with Ben Johnson, but I was expecting a lot more of an overhaul with him. So he still has time. He's got 6 games under his belt. If he can start to improve, I think he's definitely got the talent to be that franchise guy, but so far he hasn't shown that for me quite yet.
Yeah, but overall, I'm glad to see that the Bears are actually looking like an NFL team, but we're not really going to know who they are until we start to see them get in those divisional battles at the end of the season with the Packers, even the Vikings and the Lions. But we have another team that hasn't looked good, two teams that haven't looked good, but we have the Browns and Dolphins, and we're still on track for the Jets' first win to be against the Miami Dolphins because Tua looks really bad right now, and the Miami Dolphins just look like a team that's completely quit. I mean, Dylan Gabriel didn't even have a good game, and they dropped 31 points, and you let Judkins run all over you. And this is the first real flash that we've seen from this guy, and he goes for 3 touchdowns. Tua only has 100 yards passing. Quinn Ewers comes in this game. I was wondering when we are going to see a Quinn Ewers sighting. I believe we predicted we were going to see one around maybe week 7 or 8 coming into the season, because whether it's going to be Tua is getting hurt or just the Dolphins being really bad. But now Mike McDaniels in the press conference, when he stopped saying in the press conference, he said that he has to assess every single player now and reevaluate if their job is safe.
Why would Tua's job be safe at this point? Like, the only reason why you start him at this point is because you're paying him all this money. But he now leads the league in interceptions. He's played awful the last 3 weeks. He has 2 consecutive games of 3 interceptions. And I think there's a lot of things wrong with this Dolphins team, but Tua has to be at the top of that list at this point. You can't have 6 fumbles in this game. You can't have, and 3 by Tua, by the way. And you can't also have 3 interceptions, pass for under 100 yards if you count sacks as well, and expect to be successful. 6 points. And again, you're facing the Browns. Like, I know the Browns have a fairly good defense, but losing 31-6 against a 1-5 team is a bad look. And I was expecting to see that Mike McDaniels would be fired after this game. Apparently, he's still got a little bit more life in him. But this team looks so dead. You talk about the second worst team according to the Brickyard. This team looks pathetic at this point. They had 6 total fumbles. We had 2 fumbles from Quinn Ewers as well. They just are playing sloppy. There's not really any redeeming quality for this team. Their defense sucks. Their running game couldn't get going either. It's a complete disaster in Miami at this point.
I mean, and then we have like the Jets and Panthers game. Panthers, you win. Bryce Young, he gets injured in this game, which is concerning. But like, when the Patriots are good, do they just have a hex on this entire division? Because as soon as they step into the division lead, the Buffalo Bills lose back-to-back primetime games, and then Atlanta, of all teams, dominates them. Like, as soon as the Patriots are good, the Jets go back to being the worst team in the league, and then the Miami Dolphins go back to being the second worst team in the league. And neither of these teams looks like they have a real future for some coach to come in and turn it around. And now the Buffalo Bills seem like they're getting ravaged by injuries so far this season too, where it could be a Josh Allen or bust team where they may not have a real defense by the time they get to the playoffs. So, like, what is going on in just the entire AFC East?
Well, if I'm the rest of the division, I'm so deflated. You had Brady for 20 years, who was 32-3 against the Bills. I think he was 30-8 against the Jets, and then the Dolphins' record was equally impressive as well. You have 5 years where the Patriots don't have their quarterback situation resolved. You see Cam Newton, you see Mac Jones, you see Bailey Zappi, and then just immediately the second time they draft a quarterback, they get Drake May, who is already looking like a top 10 quarterback. I would put him over Justin Herbert at this point pretty easily at this point. And just immediately, they get the right coach, they get the right quarterback, and immediately everybody falls apart. And if I'm them, like, the Jets, they never stood a chance this season. But the Dolphins, they had aspirations to make the playoffs this year. And then the Bills, this felt like this was their year. We saw the Chiefs coming off a demoralizing Super Bowl loss. Are they going to have a hangover? Looks like their window is closed at this point. It's just, for the rest of the AFC East, is it even fair that the Patriots have found their guy and that they're already firing on all cylinders? It's not. But the NFL is a cruel place. You see teams like the Packers always have their guy. Team like the Steelers always have their shit together. And the Patriots, they fall under that umbrella as well.
Yeah, and the thing too is now you have the only coach in the division again with aura. I mean, before like Rex Ryan had a little bit with Bill Belichick, but like Sean McDermott is now wearing glasses on Monday Night Football, negative aura. Aaron Glenn, Mr. High Knees on the sideline, Mr. I can't score a touchdown in back-to-back weeks, Mr. I thought Justin Fields was the guy for the job. And then
For
Mike
7 weeks, by the way.
McDaniel, yeah. And you
You had
haven't won a game yet this season.
and now Justin Fields is there's three guys who have started a game and had less than 50 yards. Justin Fields, and Justin Fields has now started 3 games and has thrown for less than 50 yards. I understand. Everyone thinks I'm a Justin Fields hater. At this point, I'm ready to just come out of the closet and say that I am a Justin Fields hater. He's not the guy, and that's fine. He's going to be a great running back in the XFL someday. That's fine. No hard feelings for him. He made it to the pros, and I'm on the sofa. That's fine. But he's not the guy. It took you 7 weeks to figure that out. Now you have Tyrod Taylor. And if you want to redeem your season, why not go after someone like Russell Wilson, who's sitting in New York with Jackson Dart playing well for them? Why not call up Kirk Cousins for the Falcons, who's sitting on the bench for them? Call up somebody, because clearly this is not the team for you. I understand maybe you're in the quarterback hunt. Maybe you want the first overall pick. But if I'm Aaron Glenn and I want to keep my job, I make a trade for a quarterback. We've seen what Tyrod Taylor has done. He's been in the league for 15 years at this point. Justin Fields isn't the guy. Go out and get your quarterback. Why are you going to just be in quarterback hell when you have 2 Hall of Famers waiting to just get their opportunity somewhere while they're on the bench? I would call up Kirk Cousins and I would call up Russell Wilson.
Yeah, I mean, Cam Newton has been talking about how he thinks he's a starting quarterback in the NFL, so why not Cam Newton?
That would be the most Jets thing ever. That would be so Jets, it's not even funny for them to call up Cam Newton. Maybe Colin Kaepernick is still ready to go.
Yeah, someone has to call Kaepernick. But yeah, the AFC East, we'll see how it plays out, but it's not looking good. Hopefully the Bills can at least stay healthy to finish the year. And then we actually had a good game. The Eagles and the Vikings, Jalen Hurts with a perfect passer rating. Game ended 28-22, and the Vikings were held to 1 touchdown despite 6 red zone trips and that tough touchdown drop from TJ Hawkinson where he almost had it, and then he just dropped the ball at the last second.
Yeah, there was also a missed opportunity with Justin Jefferson against Cooper DeJean. Missed opportunities. Carson Wentz, I don't think he's played poorly for them in the absence of J.J. McCarthy, but there was definitely some missed opportunities, missed throws that had they gone the other way, maybe the Vikings pull out the win. But it's tough. Vikings, I still feel like, put up a good game. We've seen Jordan Mason play well for them. Jordan Addison woke up in this game as well. He's played well. But on the other side, for the Eagles, you mentioned the perfect game for Jalen Hurts. Devontae Smith got going in this game. A.J. Brown got going in this game. And I feel like when this team is firing in all cylinders, they're impossible to stop at this point. So credits to them. They made some big stops on defense when it mattered. And then, yeah, for Carson Wentz, it's unfortunate to see how he played. I don't think he played poorly, even if the stat line indicates that, but just some mixed throws and bad red zone efficiency, which was why they ultimately didn't get the win.
Yeah, also he was getting killed. Like as soon as he would take the snap, the Philadelphia Eagles were on him. So it was like a tough game, but like Carson Wentz had some incredible plays that he made with his legs to keep drives alive, and then he did have some really nice throws. So I think like the Vikings at this point are kind of the prototypical 9-8 team in the NFL at this point, and then typically it comes down to your quarterback, and it's just their offensive line probably being their weakest unit along with the quarterback at this point, because you have Addison, who's kind of been inconsistent, and then TJ Hawkinson just doesn't look like the same player that he has. It seems like he got his money and he's kind of faded off a little bit.
Yeah, it's tough. He had a couple of drops in this game. I know he's coming back. He's been banged up over the last couple of years. Maybe he's regressing a little bit, but the Vikings, yeah, I mean, they're in a position. Their quarterback position is weak. Even if J.J. McCarthy comes back, I wasn't impressed with what I saw so far. Maybe this is another team that calls up for a quarterback if they don't like what Carson Wentz has done for them. But I just think this team's going to end up going 8-9, 9-8, and probably missing out on the playoffs at this point, unfortunately. Even though I like a lot of the players on their defense, and I like obviously what they have on offense, but They just don't have the right guy at quarterback anymore.
Yeah, but the Colts have the best guy at running back right now because if you give the ball to Jonathan Taylor, turns out he'll get it into the end zone 3 times, and now he has multiple games this season with 3 total touchdowns. And Jonathan Taylor looks as good as he ever has, and the Colts now a quiet 6-1, just quietly beating teams, and kind of just the way they're beating teams, they feel like a elite team that's just been overwhelming people. And if you're Daniel Jones, if all you have to do is give the ball to Jonathan Taylor, it makes your life a lot easier, especially with how dominant the Colts offensive line has looked. They look as good as ever, especially you've had some great offensive lines in the past for them. And then underrated pickup as well, Lou Anarumo seems like he's really bringing that defense along for this team. And that was always a real weak point for the Indianapolis Colts, is their defense going to be able to step up in a big spot. And I feel like Lou Anarumo has been that difference maker. And then Daniel Jones just kind of being an adult in the room, going through the ringer, and then having now one of the best offenses where you have Tyler Warren making big plays. Michael Pittman with 7 catches, and then Alec Pierce is looking good. Daniel Jones has a little bit of a rapport with Josh Downs. Is this a team that is just so good you can be like a Philadelphia Eagles and Nick Foles team where you stumble into a divisional round, maybe the conference championship against the Chiefs if you get the right matchups?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the rest of their schedule. They have the Titans next week, and then they face the Jags twice. The Texans, they're struggled as so far out of the gate for them as well. I think the Colts are a lock to win this division. And I also got to say, like, the teams that they're beating, like, they've beaten the Broncos. The Broncos have shown to be a potential playoff team. The Chargers, I know they're banged up, but they've still took care of business against them. So I do think that the way they're beating teams should give them flowers here. Plus, I got to give credit to Daniel Jones. I feel like this Colts team kind of reminds me of what we saw from the Vikings last year, where everything kind of meshed together. You had a guy who maybe wasn't ultra successful in other places, but you get the right head coach with Shane Steichen, who's getting the most out of Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones is not turning the ball over. He's completing 70% of his throws, not taking a lot of sacks, which is what he was kind of infamous for in New York. And all of a sudden, you have a team that has a good defense now with Lou Anarumo, as you shouted out. Jonathan Taylor playing like 2021 Jonathan Taylor, who's on pace to have potentially 2,000 rushing yards and over 20 touchdowns. Like, we're going to see potentially a historic season for Jonathan Taylor, who's arguably in the MVP conversation at this point. And then Daniel Jones, like, I got to give credits where credit is due. We're almost halfway through the season. He's got his team looking at potentially a 7-1 start, and credits to him. I mean, I've definitely picked him apart in the past, but it seems like Shane Steichen has whispered in his ear all the right things. He's not making mistakes. He's completing all of his throws, and then you have Jonathan Taylor to lean on. This is a Colts team that I think can win a playoff game. I don't know if I trust them to go the distance, but if they can win a playoff game, they're going to prove a lot of people wrong.
Yeah, and it's really going to come down to, is anyone going to be able to stop the run at this point? And because if you can stop Jonathan Taylor, make Daniel Jones throw the ball, that'll be a different story. But with this Colts team, like, Jonathan Taylor is looking unstoppable. So I think the entire season is going to ride or die on him. And you made a good point where he should be in MVP conversations, because if this team, and realistically so, they could go 14-3 and be the number 1 seed in the AFC. And that's definitely realistic. I mean, I could see them losing 2 or 3, maybe more games, but Jonathan Taylor already has 10 touchdowns and we're not even halfway through the season. So if this guy finishes with like 22, 25 touchdowns, you have to put him in the MVP conversation, especially if he carries Daniel Jones to a number 1 seed, could potentially have Shane Steichen winning Coach of the Year as well. So I think this could be a huge award every year. And we've just seen so many quarterbacks go out there, win MVP. Baker Mayfield, will he be the MVP? He has to win his division. Patrick Mahomes is putting up a good push. Drake May, maybe he's not going to have the numbers probably though. But I think if you want to give it to someone who's not a quarterback this year, Jonathan Taylor's a prime candidate right now, and I think it's a good time to shout it out.
100%. Like I said, right, he's on pace for potentially a 2,000-yard season. He could have over 20 touchdowns at the rate he's going. He's been absolutely the most valuable player for the Colts, who are the biggest surprise team in all of the NFL. I forgot what our record was for the Colts, but I think it was like 6-11 or something, and they already have their 6th win of the season. So the sky is the limit for this Colts team. I think their defense has played very well. Obviously, Jonathan Taylor, like we shouted out. So this is fun. This is a fun team. I think they could get the 1 seed.
Also, Jonathan Taylor has three touchdown games this year rushing, which is more than the rest of the NFL combined. There's only 2 other players who have done it.
That's insane. He's got to be in the MVP conversation, obviously, at this point. And I would take him over Baker at this point, just based on Monday night. But yeah, he's absolutely in the MVP conversation. But then let's transition to, let's talk about Cowboys and Commanders. We'll get this game out of the way. I think this is the last of the major blowouts. But Cowboys, this offense for the Cowboys was outstanding. We had CeeDee Lamb come back from injury, immediately picks it up. We had a big play from George Pickens. He's munching on all cylinders as well. Dak Prescott playing probably the best football we've seen from Dak Prescott. And then Javonte Williams, great ad for him. Didn't really get it going in Denver. He's been super successful for the Cowboys. And this is maybe the most exciting offense in all of football. You have a 2-headed monster. George Pickens is in that top 5 play for how he's played this year so far. Between these 2 receivers, Jake Ferguson, what he's done for them, this Cowboys offense is arguably the most exciting offense in football.
Yeah, no, it's definitely the most exciting offense, and I think it's the most exciting offense that the NFL has had in a while. I mean, we had the Ravens last year with Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. We've had the Chiefs with Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. We had the Atlanta Falcons with Tony Gonzalez, Julio Jones, Roddy White. I mean, shout out to that team. Incredible offense. And then we've had the Niners offenses in the past, but having George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb, I mean, both of them averaged over 20 yards a catch.
Insanity.
Over 20 yards a catch, and then they had a combined 9 catches for 192 yards and 1 touchdown for CeeDee Lamb. And then George Pickens looks like he's on a complete other mode, and I've been saying this all season, but this guy has always had the potential to be a top 5 wide receiver, and now you're seeing 2 players who look like top 5 wide receivers on the same team, and they both do something a little bit different, where you can have CeeDee Lamb coming across the middle of the field, and then George Pickens is unstoppable on 1-and-1 go routes down the side of the field, where Dak Prescott is just throwing him money balls down the field. This is the best Dak Prescott I've ever seen. And then you have Jake Ferguson with 7 catches, and he only goes for 29 yards, but he has 2 touchdowns. So now you're looking at someone in Jake Ferguson who is a touchdown machine in the red zone for you. He's picking up big third downs. And then on top of that, you also have Javonte Williams turning back the clock. I mean, he struggled a few years with injuries, but in this game, he had 19 attempts for 116 of the easiest yards I've ever seen him pick up. And I think this has the potential to be one of the best offenses ever. If they can just figure out some way just to bend but not break, maybe make a trade in the middle of the season here for Dallas, like George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb. Do you remember when this was laughed at in the offseason? A lot of people like, you're bringing in George Pickens. Like, you must have not actually watched George Pickens play in Pittsburgh, because I watched every George Pickens game, and he would have some of the biggest wow moments with Kenny Pickett, of all people, with Justin Fields, with Russell Wilson. And now you're looking at a team who has him and CeeDee Lamb. Like, you must have just seen the memes of him. Like, he was kind of a player who was memed. He complains a lot, another Steelers wide receiver, but it seemed like people thought they were bringing in Martavis Bryant, not Antonio Brown or Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, if you watched any Steelers game, you know that the only highlight on offense was George Pickens. And now we're seeing him. He's going to shatter all of his career highs. He already has his career high in touchdowns to this point. He's on pace for potentially 1,500 yards to this point, and he's going to shatter his receptions record as well. He's now 4th in the NFL with receiving yards as well. He's 1st in the NFL in touchdowns to this point. Like, this guy has been an absolute monster for them. And honestly, I think the best thing that happened to the Cowboys, unfortunately, was CeeDee Lamb going down with injury for a few games, because now he's got the rapport with Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott already had that rapport with CeeDee Lamb, who was the #1 all-pro wide receiver last year. You had both of these monsters together, and this receiver core is disgusting. And then already we shout out Jake Ferguson, one of the best tight ends in the football right now. And then Javonte Williams, turning back the clock from what we saw him in North Carolina. Like, yeah, ultimately, if their defense, instead of being the worst in the league, can be like bottom 10, then this team can win a playoff game at this point. And they're going to be one of the most fun teams to watch.
Yeah, with this team, their offense is going to be really good. I know their defense is one of the worst defenses in the league. It's kind of the price you pay for having this much firepower on offense. But at a certain point, sometimes your offense is your defense, because you put so much pressure on the other team to score that you have Deron Bland show up in this game and get a pick 6.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then ultimately for the Commanders, I just don't know if this is their year. I just feel like Jaden Daniels is banged up. We don't know if he's going to play next week. And then the running game hasn't been effective for them. You have Terry McLaurin, who's still banged up. Deebo Samuel is banged up as well. I just fear that the Commanders, like it's not necessarily a sophomore slump as so much to, I just feel like Jaden Daniels is just banged up. Their injuries have really cost them quite a bit, where I don't know if they're going to repeat what we saw last year. Maybe they can rattle at the end of the season, but injuries have just kind of ravaged them for the first half of the season.
Yeah, and I was kind of like mentioning that like the past few weeks, like I think the Commanders can be good if Jaden Daniels is healthy, but he seemed like a player who's just been putting himself in harm's way too much over the past few weeks. And, we brought that up on the show multiple times. And then what happens? He gets injured in this game. So I just hope that this isn't a career trend with him, but so far that's just pretty tough if you're a Commanders fans, especially now Marcus Mariota also got injured in this game. So I think it's not necessarily, as you said, a sophomore slump, but you're going to be ravaged with injuries and potentially finish last in your division, which could be a blessing in disguise, because then you'll have an easy schedule next year, top draft pick.
Yeah, I mean, there could be worse things, right? We've seen other teams in the past have that kind of outcome and turned out to be very successful for them. They still have a very bright future ahead of them with Jaden Daniels, and then obviously the 2 receivers that they have now. But yeah, it's unfortunate to see. I think the Giants will ultimately pass them if they cannot blow 19-point leads in the fourth quarter, which is a good game to pivot to. The Giants game. This was a great game all around. Great to watch. Jackson Dart, I felt for the most part in this game, played very well. Cam Scatterbo, again, has been the highlight of their offense for them. Wan'Dale Robinson. And I just think for the Giants, for me, what would make this team even better and more exciting to watch if Malik Neighbors wasn't hurt. I would love to see Jackson Dart with Malik Neighbors, but Wan'Dale Robinson stepping in, Danny Bellinger and Theo Johnson playing well for tight end positions. But I also do have to give a shout out to the Broncos. You were down in this game. Your offense has been struggling pretty much the last 3 weeks. And then you score 33 points in the fourth quarter. And Bo Nix roaring back. I feel like most of the game they struggled, couldn't really get anything going. And then you get a pick 6. You get a touchdown from Bo Nix. You go for 2, get both of them. And then the Broncos come roaring back. 5 minutes, they were down 26-8. Next thing you know, they're kicking a field goal to win the game. I don't know if I should credit the Broncos for their roaring comeback or also say, like, Giants, what are we doing? How did this happen? 26-8 in 5 minutes. Where did your offense go? That's my question.
I mean, it's not where their offense went. Their offense did fine. Their kicker missed 2 extra points, and Jackson Dart had a good game overall in this game. It's tough to see that interception, but even with that interception, if Jude McAdamy Is that how you say his name? I don't even feel like pronouncing his name correctly. He misses 2 extra points when we have people consistently bombing 60-yard field goals. We have people hitting 58-yard field goals, hitting their career high, new career highs every week. This has been one of the most ridiculous years for kickers. And then the Giants' luck out of nowhere. It was way too good to be true because you're up 19 in this game, shutting out the Broncos, and Brian Burns gets hurt. And then it comes down to your kicker missing 2 extra points. So I don't really know how much Jackson Dart could have done outside of just taking the sack, not throwing the interception. But even with that, you still should have been going to overtime. And then Brian Burns gets hurt in this game. I mean, if it couldn't get worse, your defense was probably going to be what would carry you to a potential playoff berth. And now he's injured. And then Bo Nix became the first player in NFL history that throw 2 touchdown passes and rush for 2 touchdowns in a fourth quarter. I mean,
Insane.
this guy is insane. I seriously don't understand Bo Nix, but he is doing the most by doing the least. He doesn't show up for the first 3 quarters, and this guy is the definition of take some Adderall and cram. I don't know how many smelling salts that they gave him, but this guy goes out there and he looks like the worst quarterback in the league in the first 3 quarters, and then he goes out and he sets an NFL record in the fourth quarter. Then Sean Payton, his best month career-wise is October. So I guess it's also just Sean Payton refusing to lose in October, which is the month that he has his highest winning percentage. But like, I don't know what to make of Bo Nix after this game, because on one hand, he played horrible. If the Giants hit 2 extra points, they probably win this game. And then Brian Burns getting injured definitely has a huge part. But then on the other hand, he sets an NFL record.
Yeah, I was ready to say that Bo Nix is bad and terrible and that they should move on and try to draft a quarterback next year. And then the fourth quarter came. And Bo Nix is a guy that I can't really put my fingers on because at his best, I feel like he's a Drake May, Justin Herbert type build. But at his worst, it's a painful watch. You see his offense sometimes just be absolutely abysmal. I saw the London game and how abysmal that was watching that team. And then all of a sudden they just wake up. You see Cortland Sutton come alive, and he has a big game for them. Marvin Mims makes some big plays. We had Evan Ingram, a guy that I was excited to see join the Broncos. He comes alive in this game when it matters. But Bo Nix, I don't know if I should say he's one of the worst quarterbacks in the league. I don't know if I should say he's the future of the NFL because fourth quarter Bo Nix was on a whole nother level in this game. And I got to give him flowers where flowers is due because, like you mentioned, 2 touchdowns passing, 2 rushing touchdowns as well in the fourth quarter. Just absolutely electric for them. And this is probably the best game of the week that we had.
Yeah, and he's like a big build rushing the football too, where he's more like closer to a Josh Allen. Like he's actually a big physical quarterback, and he has that build that he's kind of gonna be able to last and make those throws in September heading into the playoffs. So I think it'll definitely be interesting, but I just need to see more of Bo Nix because so far he's just Tim Tebow on steroids at this point, where Tim Tebow would play horrible the first 3 quarters and then come alive. But obviously I think Bo Nix is a lot better than Tim Tebow.
Yes, he is a lot better than Tim Tebow. But if you're just going to keep doing what he did this game, then yeah, I think the Tim Tebow comp is fair. But I definitely think he's a much better passer. But great game overall. Probably the best game of the week in my mind. And then obviously, like I mentioned with the Giants, Cam Scatterbo played great. Wan'Dale Robinson, shout out them. But yeah, Giants, this was your opportunity to anoint yourself as a potential playoff team, and you fumbled it. So I don't know who to blame, whether we blame the coaching, the defense, the offense in the last 5 minutes. But yeah, you can't be blowing 19-point leads in the fourth quarter. And then let's talk about this Packers and Cardinals game. Packers get the win. We see Josh Jacobs get 2 touchdowns in this game. Tucker Kraft continuing on his tight end run that he's been on for them. And then are we seeing a potential quarterback battle, controversy potentially, in Arizona? Because Jacoby Brissett, although they didn't win this game, he's played better than Kyler Murray so far this season. He's even running as well. He got 26 rushing yards in this game as well. Cardinals, potential quarterback controversy with Jacoby Brissett potentially.
Yeah, I think for the Cardinals, it's time to pick up the phone and see if anyone's interested in Kyler Murray. I just think he's kind of run his course with this team, and they could kind of both use a breakup. There should be some desperate teams out there that may want to trade for Kyler Murray, whether it's the Jets or maybe Miami wants to try something else with Kyler Murray, take a shot, eat his deal for a little bit, and then just fully commit to rebuilding. But yeah, Jacoby Brissett is a quarterback that looks like he can see over his offensive line, and he knows how to get the ball to Michael Wilson. And the Cardinals, when you have Jacoby Brissett, you're like, wow, so it's not being
High on the Packers.
Yeah, Matt LaFleur is a November and December coach, and his teams always play their best after Thanksgiving. So this was kind of just a game where it seemed like, yeah, we have to show up and win this one. And Micah Parsons had 3 sacks, which is also the best game that he's had in his career so far. So nice to see him getting going, but it just seemed like the Packers were going through the motions. Like, I get it. We've all had those days.
We have had those games. So understandable for them. Last game before the Monday night game that is currently on right now, the Niners and Falcons game. We have the Niners squeak out another win. Big game for Christian McCaffrey. He was pretty much their entire offense in this game. And then Falcons, after their win against Buffalo, didn't materialize in back-to-back wins. Any real takeaways from this game for you, for the Niners?
They just seem like a really well-coached team at this point. You get George Kittle back, and now you have a legitimate trio for Mac Jones, and this is probably the most talent that Mac Jones has ever played with, and he's playing through an injury. We all saw him get beat up on Thursday Night Football, so I'm really impressed that he was able to kind of go out there, gut through it in that game. And Christian McCaffrey coming alive is definitely a welcome sight where he hasn't really been himself this season, let's be honest. And that could be with age or just attrition to start the year. And then having Kendrick Bourne as a reliable 3, and now you have Kittle. This is going to be a team that's going to be pretty nice. And you have Robert Saleh on defense, and he's been instrumental for them. And this defense, while they have had a lot of injuries, even with Fred Warner out, even with Nick Bosa out, you're starting to see some of their young talent that they drafted the past 2 years start to get better. And overall, the fact that you were able to hold the Falcons to a single-digit second half, they only scored 10 points against you. Like, that's pretty impressive that the Niners were able to just bounce back from a loss, come right out, and then put down an offense that was flying high for the past 2 weeks. And then what happened? What happened to Michael Penix? Did he turn into Tua on national television? Was I right?
You are. I think that's a very fair comp. I'll give you credit. You were ahead of the curve on that one, but I am going to buy into what you said there. For the Niners, for me, I don't think the Niners are an amazing team, and I'm curious how they're going to play out the second half. But I got to give them credit where credit is due. With all of the injuries, both offensively, defensively, you're playing your backup quarterback, and you're still winning games. And you're playing and you're winning convincingly. You're now 5-2. You're right there with the Rams, despite it all. So I think this shows the guts of the 49ers. It shows Kyle Shanahan. We got to give credits to him where credit is due. If there was a coach of the year conversation right now, I think he deserves to be in that conversation based on how much injuries that they've gone through already to this point. So credit where credit is due for the Niners. I don't think they're a 5-2 good team, but their defense has played great, and Christian McCaffrey really stepped up in this game. Mac Jones, although he didn't play great this game, the last few weeks he's played very well for them in place of Brock Purdy. So got to give a lot of credit to the Niners. They're showing a lot of guts despite all of their losses that they've had.
Yeah, they just seem like a team like if you're not careful and you mess around and they get to a wild card spot, they just might beat you, but you're just going to get outcoached in the first round. So I could definitely see them upsetting someone.
Absolutely. And then the last game, this is currently active right now, but Seahawks are winning 14-6 against the Texans right now. Early stats are showing Sam Darnold 9-15, 1 touchdown, 134. And then Texans offense struggling with the run game. I know we haven't really watched too much of this game, but any thoughts on how this game has fared?
Yeah, it's 14-6, and if you're Houston, I'm fine with that because I know my defense will be able to adjust, especially with D'Amico Ryan. So, just looking forward to seeing in the second half. I think Houston's defense will be able to come up big and generate a turnover because we did see Seattle kind of stall out at some points in the fourth quarter, especially in that Jaguars game. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers were able to come back and beat them. So, I think Houston is kind of exactly where they want to be.
Yeah, I would say so. So I think ultimately, I forgot who we had picked in this game, but I think this game is going to come down to the fourth quarter, and I still picked the Seahawks to win this game, but um, we'll see how the Texans respond in the second half.
Yeah, we should have a better idea after we finish previewing week 8. Anything you want to say about the Lions and Bucks?
Oh yeah, I mean the Bucks defense. I mean the Bucks. I know they've had some injuries to the wide receivers, but this was a statement win for the Lions. The Bucks have been one of the hottest teams. Lions come out there, take care of business, stall their offense, and then huge game for Jahmyr Gibbs. Big game for Amon-Ra St. Brown. And the Lions just look like the better team overall. So big shout out to the Lions and especially their defense. Now we have Aiden Hutchinson with a sack in 5 consecutive games.
Yeah, no, Aiden Hutchinson has looked like a monster. He's definitely en route to possibly being the comeback player of the year because he had that gruesome injury. And like this was no like small injury that Aiden Hutchinson had. I think we were together, we saw it live, and you just saw his leg snap. We like immediately knew that he was out for the season. That was a tough loss for the Lions, but now he could potentially be going for defensive player of the year and comeback player of the year. I don't know if anyone's won both of those awards, so it could be something to watch out for. But overall, just a statement win for the Lions. And I like the black on black like helmets with the black line too. Those uniforms were looking crisp for them, but Bucks are just kind of injured right now. So it's definitely a tough loss, but this is what we expect from the Lions against an injured team like that.
And coming off a loss as well.
Mhm.
So big win for them. And then, like I think you said this earlier, but 13-3 now in primetime games for Mr. Campbell. So
It's
credit
the
where
best in
credit
the
is due.
NFL since he
It is
took
the best.
over.
Yeah. So big win for them. Now we go to week 8. And Thursday night, we have the battle of the cursed franchises Vikings and Chargers. In SoFi, Chargers are favored at 3.5. And I'm historically more of a Chargers sympathizer, and you're more of a Chargers realist, I would say, or maybe a bit of a hater in sometimes. But at this point with the Chargers, with all of their offensive line injuries, now you're starting to see injuries on defense as well. You saw it with the Colts game. I just feel like this is a team that's slowly becoming demoralized. And so I'm not going to pick the Chargers in this game. The Vikings, I think with their pass rush that they can generate for them, I think this is going to be a lower scoring game. The over-under is 44.5. I would take the under, honestly, especially with Carson Wentz potentially starting for them. But yeah, the Vikings should come out and win. I take them to take the money line, and I would take the under. But Vikings, I'm seeing like 17-10.
Yeah, I don't know who thought this was a good idea, but I think this is a good spotlight just for kind of your casual fans who only focus on like their own team because this really is, you said it before, the two most cursed teams in NFL history. They're two of the only teams who haven't gotten to a Super Bowl. And then just the Vikings at this point with Carson Wentz, I kind of just have to pick them because they have a more complete defense at this point. So I think they'll be able to generate enough pressure. They were all over Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts was running for his life most of that game versus the Vikings, just making incredible plays. But I think they'll be able to get to Justin Herbert and just score enough. But this is going to be probably one of the most bizarre games of the season.
Well, we have two cursed franchises. Chargers are probably the more cursed of the two, but two cursed franchises. But the Chargers, with the amount of injuries that they've had, I feel like the Vikings. This is a fair pick for them for Thursday night. And then a sigh of relief: no London games this week, and we actually have 6 teams on bye as well. So kind of a smaller slate than what we're used to.
Big
We
bye
still have
week.
Yeah, big bye week for them. Let's go over Patriots and Browns. Patriots are favored at 7.5. Browns coming off of a big win against Miami. That 7.5 spread seems like a trap, but I think the Patriots still cover, and I'll take the Patriots with the way that they've been playing, going for their 5th consecutive win.
Yeah, I'll take the Patriots to win as well. Keep in mind this is their first game back in Foxborough in about 3 weeks now. So New England Patriots have seen their team go on the road to Buffalo, win a huge game. They saw them win a huge game versus Tennessee this week, have a big game in New Orleans, kind of push that momentum forward. So I think Gillette Stadium's probably going to be a little bit raucous, especially after all the headlines around their team since they played at home in New England. I believe the last game they played was against Pittsburgh.
Yeah, that was the last game at home for them. Patriots the last 10 years are 4-0 against the Browns. They're 9-2 since 2000. So record and history shows the Patriots winning this game. And then another game that should be an easy bet for us, Falcons and Dolphins. We have the battle of AFC Tua and NFC Tua. I will anoint you with credit there, but Falcons are favored at 7.5 at home. At this point, I don't see any reason to pick the Dolphins in this game. This could be the last game of Mike McDaniel's career, but Falcons, I take them. This doesn't seem like a trap game at all. I will take the Falcons.
Yeah, and what tracks with a team like the Miami Dolphins with Tua when they're at their peak is that they got all of their wins feeding on some of the worst teams in the NFL. So I have to pick the Falcons to win this one. Sorry, Miami.
All right. And then the Jets, who are 0-7. They go to Cincinnati after they just got a huge win against Pittsburgh. They are favored at 6.5. And Joe Flacco, Jamar Chase. How many targets for Jamar Chase? 15, 20, 30 potentially. T. Higgins also getting targets in this as well. I like the Bengals. They're 6.5-point favorites. I think they win by more than a touchdown.
Yeah, Sauce Gardner got banged up in that last game too, so it's going to be wide open. It'll be a field day for Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. And Joe Flacco did all of that last week without knowing any of the play calls. Like, he's like, yeah, I didn't really know what was coming through my headset. So pretty much the entire game last Thursday was improv for Joe Flacco, which is probably the most impressive part about what he did in that game. Not only targeting Jamar Chase, but the fact that he was able to basically do an impromptu game versus the Pittsburgh Steelers on Thursday Night Football, who don't give up 30 points that often. So it's going to be a long day to be a Jets fan.
0-8. That's tough.
Save yourself, Aaron Glenn. You can resign. It's okay.
Just resign. 0-8.
We all make mistakes.
Be the least. We all make mistakes. Don't ruin your coaching career by staying with them the full season. So they get the win. We have a lot of very strange matchups. Now we have Bills versus Carolina. Carolina coming off of 3 consecutive wins. Bills are favored at 7.5. This is in Charlotte. And this is a game that feels like a trap again. We have the 7.5-point spread for Buffalo. They have not been friends of the spread. They are 1-5 against the spread this season. That's spicy to me. I think Buffalo, should bounce back and win this game. However, I'm going to take the Panthers to cover. I think they cover the spread, and it's going to be a lot closer than we think.
Yeah, and this might be Andy Dalton versus Josh Allen too. And if Andy Dalton comes in, I know he's going to be able to get Tedero McMillan the ball and those guys. But yeah, I think Carolina has put up a fight, and they've won 3 games in a row right now. But Buffalo has lost 2 games. They're coming off of a bye, and you have to win this game, right? Right? Especially looking at New England's schedule, this is a point where the entire bye week, the Buffalo Bills have heard nothing about how easy the Patriots schedule. Like, okay, yeah, I get it. We've heard enough about how easy New England's schedule is. So they have to start stacking up some W's fast to keep pace.
If they lose this game, the panic button is pressed hard at this point. You cannot lose 3 consecutive games, especially with how the Patriots are playing. This would be A1 panic for the Bills if they lose this game. And then we have Eagles and Giants, rematch of just 2 weeks prior. Giants won previously, kind of upset them, 34-17. And then this is in Philadelphia. Philly's favored at 7.5. As much as I like the Giants this current iteration of them with Jackson Dart and Cam Scatterbo, I don't think they're going to sweep the Eagles in their regular season head-to-head. I will take the Eagles to win. That 7.5 point spread, maybe they cover, but I'll take the Eagles in this one.
Yeah, and this is one of those bizarre games, especially the Giants are coming off one of the most morally defeating losses. I mean, you have Bo Nix, of all people, come back and do that to you in the fourth quarter, and then you miss 2 extra points, and then apparently Brian Daboll broke a chair in the locker room after this one. So it's one of those games where I could see the Giants coming out and winning, and I kind of have a feeling that they will, especially coming off of a loss like that. The Commanders are kind of fading away. The Cowboys, will they, won't they? Like, the Eagles don't necessarily need this win to feel good about themselves. So I will, I'll go with the Giants in this one with the upset.
You're going them sweeping the Eagles? Okay, I respect it. I think the Giants are better than their record, especially now that they have Dart and Scatterbo has been emerging as a national favorite at this point. So I like it. I just don't know if they can sweep the Eagles in their regular season matchups, but crazier things have happened. So I'm not against it. So we've already talked about the Bills game. Now we have Bears and Ravens. Status of Lamar Jackson. Chances are he's not playing in this game. Bears are riding high at 4-2. Baltimore's favorite at 6.5, though. So let me see the injury report. I don't know. I don't think Lamar Jackson's coming back in this game. So I'm very curious on why the spread is as high as it is. He wasn't on the field for practice, so I don't think he's going to suit up in this game. Why is the spread so high for the Ravens?
Is that the Tyler Huntley push? Is it Tyler Huntley now instead of Cooper Rush?
It shouldn't be Cooper Rush. I don't know why Cooper Rush is starting for them at this point. He has not shown to be the guy. But the Ravens need a win. And the Bears are a team that, yes, if Lamar Jackson's playing, then the Ravens definitely win, I think. But even without it, 1-5 for the Ravens. They need to start stringing wins together. And otherwise, I think we have to start looking very closely at John Harbaugh's job, potentially. I'm going to take the Ravens to win. And I think I'm not going to pick them to cover the spread. But I think they do get the win against the Bears at the 1 o'clock slate.
I think they lose, and then we potentially start hearing rumors about Lamar Jackson getting traded. Because at this point with the Ravens, you look at it where how long into Lamar Jackson's career with the Ravens, for his lifespan as a quarterback, you're looking at 33 years old for prime years, unless he's going to be an elite pocket passer. If you have a year where you kind of fizzle out, and then Derrick Henry is going to be another year older, haven't been able to do it with John Harbaugh, I think like this season, it's pretty much over for the Baltimore Ravens. You're going to be 1-7 after this game. Like, I feel like this is going to be a time where you have to actually consider, if you're Lamar Jackson, if being a part of the Ravens is what is best for you, because you haven't been able to break through with this team, with this head coach, and kind of your defense is just banged up, a little bit older this year, hasn't been able to keep it together. So I think he might move on. If they lose this game and you're 1-7, you're pretty much out. But that will be interesting. I think Brick is frozen right now, but had the Seahawks just kick a field goal, that game is now 17-6. As soon as we started talking about Lamar Jackson leaving the Ravens, seemed like that was too spicy of a take. That was a little bit too early for the NFL, and they had to stop us. The NFL tried to stop us. That's how good our takes have been this season. That's how on point we've been calling these things.
See, so Lamar Jackson's now 28. I don't know if the Ravens would trade Lamar, but I do think that John Harbaugh, I mean, you're talking about a guy that's been with this team for 20 years. And really, like, the team that won him a Super Bowl was the Ed Reed, Ray Lewis final iteration of them. And ever since then, I'm interested to know his playoff record. I'll pull that up later, but I just feel like it's time to think about potentially going in a different direction. Maybe not instead of a special teams coordinator, you go after one of these offensive coordinators that are hungry for an opportunity. And why not get him an offensive-minded head coach when you have a Derrick Henry, you have a Zay Flowers, you even have an aging DeAndre Hopkins? I think you got to consider firing John Harbaugh at this point, especially with how often they've come up short and blown multiple 10-point leads over the course of the last 10 years for them. So I think John Harbaugh is on the hot seat, especially if they fall to 1-6.
Yeah, and yeah, it'll be tough. And he has been like 13 wins and 11 losses so far in the playoffs, and that's including the Super Bowl run. So that's looking at 4 wins there. So you take out the Super Bowl run, he's like 9-11 in the playoffs.
And that's not great. Yeah, he's 9-10 since 2015. So he's basically making it to the divisional round more often than not. Maybe I think he's made it to 2 conference championships, 3 conference championships, 2 conference championships since the Super Bowl. So I just think at this point, if you're not going to get over the hump, it's time to try something else at head coach. He'll definitely get hired somewhere else, but it's time for a change. How long can somebody be a part of that organization, not getting over the hump before you decide to make a big change? But we will see. You pick the Bears. I pick the Ravens. And then last 1 o'clock slate is Texans and Niners. Texans are right now down 17-6. Niners just rattling off wins. Thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I think the Niners continue to win. I mean, you have Robert Saleh coming back to the 49ers, and now he's going up against D'Amico Ryans, who took over his job in San Francisco. So a little bit of competitive spirit. You have all the 49ers connections in this game. So do you think the Niners win? They've just been a more consistent team with Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, and Kendrick Bourne. You at least have some continuity and something I can point to, where the Texans just haven't given me anything I can point to except for blowing out 2 of the worst teams in the NFL. Congrats. You blew out the Titans, who are probably, one of the 5 worst teams in the NFL. It's hard to put them at the worst team, especially when you have the New York Jets, who haven't won a game, which is crazy to me. And then you also beat the Ravens, who have had one of the worst defenses in the NFL, who have been jump-starting offenses. But now you're coming out off of a bye. You've only put up 6 points here. So as of right now, I'm taking the Niners.
Yeah, I think in this game, I expect a very low-scoring game. But again, like you mentioned with the Niners, they've just been the more fine-tuned machine. I haven't liked what I've seen for the Texans offensively. And with the way the Niners have performed, I think
it's like they're trying to stop him from talking again, but he froze there talking about the Niners. But should be a interesting game. But yeah, we both have the Niners winning that one.
Yep, we both have the Niners here. Then we get to the 1 o'clock slate, and hopefully the evils of Cox Internet does not silence me. Bucks and Saints. Bucks coming off of a loss. I'll look up Baker's record following a loss in the Tampa Bay era, but I know it's probably very good. The Saints, I think they played competitive the first 2 months of the season. Maybe this is when we start to see them struggle more. Tampa coming off of a loss, I see them bouncing back. This seems like a good pick here.
Yeah, it was a tough Monday night game versus the Lions, but you're going up against a really tough team and a really tough defense. Baker Mayfield now 1-4 versus the Detroit Lions with his time in Tampa. And then the Saints have been one of the worst teams in the league. So now they're chasing one of the top number 1 picks because, believe it or not, it is really competitive this season for the number 1 overall pick. I can't remember having this many teams that were just this god awful. When you stack the Raiders, the Jets, the Dolphins, the Titans, the
Browns.
Saints, the Browns. I mean, how many bad teams are we going to have this year in the NFL? You have 7 teams that I just named that are vying for the number 1 overall pick. Unbelievable. We need an investigation. This is unacceptable.
Yeah, they're throwing the games at this point. With the Bucks, in the Baker Mayfield era, they are 10-6 coming off of a loss. So history points to them coming back and bouncing back. Not necessarily a record that wows me, but I still think the Bucs with the Saints, with their struggles, I take them to get the win there. And then
It's like the internet is breaking up again for him, but we had the Bucks and Saints in that one. Both have the Bucks 10-6 coming off a loss. Saints obviously vying for that critical number 1 overall pick, and it's been a very competitive race for that so far this year. So that'll definitely be a tough one. And then see what else we have. So you covered the 1 o'clock slate already, and then we have the Jets and Bengals. Cover that one. And then let's see here. Brick is having audio issues right now. But then we have, let's go over another easy game while Brick isn't here. We have the Colts and Titans. And, this is a game where the Colts are favorited at -14. So you're looking at that spread. And typically when you have a spread that's like 2 touchdowns, it can be a trap. But with Tennessee, you've already fired your head coach in Brian Callahan right now, and you're kind of limping after that Patriots game, becoming one of the kick me when I'm down teams in the league. Had that one incredible game, but not much to speak of since, kind of just not really good at anything. You're not good on defense, don't have any good wide receivers, where the Colts have been an absolute machine. So probably look at Jonathan Taylor. Is he going to have back-to-back 3 touchdown games? He already has 3 so far this season. Already mentioning him in the MVP talk. So could be another game for Jonathan Taylor to stack some stats there against the Tennessee Titans. So definitely be an interesting one there. And then we have the Cowboys and Broncos. Speaking of weird matchups, I mean, we had that one matchup with this team. I remember when Tony Romo or Peyton Manning throws for almost 500 yards, and then Tony Romo ends up beating him. And then we have the Dallas Cowboys coming to Denver. They are 3-1. And then the Denver Broncos, who are 3-point favorites at home. So Vegas has no idea what to do with this game. They're looking at both of these teams saying, I don't know what to make of it, because you have the Broncos who come back from being down 19 in the fourth quarter, being shut out the first 3 quarters, and then they just haven't showed consistency on offense early in the game. But you have that crazy finish, and then you also have the Dallas Cowboys, who don't really have a defense in this game, and Vegas just doesn't know what to do with this Denver and Dallas game. I mean, it's the Broncos are at home and it's 3-point favorites, so it's basically dead even. I was kind of just going over the reasons why, where Vegas really doesn't know what to make of either of these teams, especially with Dallas. Their offense is really good, but if you can stop them 2 or 3 times, maybe get a turnover, you're in pretty good shape. Yeah, it looks like he's still frozen. So in this game, I'm honestly leaning Denver. Think I'll take the Broncos in this one. They're at home. It's a back-to-back homestand, especially coming home from London. Seemed like maybe a little bit of that jet lag could have contributed to why they started out so slow. So overall, I think the Broncos are starting to hit their stride. Again, Sean Payton's best month and his best winning percentage is in October overall. Do think it'll be a good game though. And we only have, let's see, yeah, we only have 3 games in the 4 o'clock slate, which I also don't like. Like, why can't we have more than 3 games? I just need 4 games in the 4 o'clock slate, but only 3. And one of those games is going to be the Titans and Colts. And every time what happens is you'll have 2 or 3 games going on in red zone, and then the best one is always the one that finishes last. End up having to switch to the channel to watch it. But you have also the Bucks and Saints too, which could also be a blowout. Saints coming off of a tough loss versus the Lions, hoping to bounce back. And then Titans and Colts, is that going to be competitive? Probably not. So this could honestly be the ugliest 4 o'clock slate. And I know we have 6 teams on a bye, so that is also going to contribute to it. But very interesting 4 o'clock slate. And then Sunday night football, we have the Green Bay Packers going to Pittsburgh. They are 4-1-1. Haven't been wowed by Green Bay. They started out the season pretty strong. I'm like, okay, this is kind of the team I was expecting to see. Kind of been sleepwalking through most of the season, waiting for Christian Watson to get back. Will they be able to integrate Matthew Golden into the offense in a purposeful way where he'll be able to make a difference? And then also had Josh Jacobs dealing with the illness last game. So could be a very good matchup, especially with how the Steelers played. You had a tough loss on Thursday Night Football, but I think just the Packers defense has been a little bit more consistent. Yes, have they been sluggish going through some of these games? Absolutely, but Jordan Love has also shown that he is a prime time performer. And on prime time this season, when the lights have been the brightest, Thursday Night Football, he came out and performed his debut where everyone really started to realize how good he was against Patrick Mahomes on Sunday Night Football. So we'll take Green Bay. They're favorited on the road by 3 points. So definitely a clear favorite here. So give me the Packers in this one. And then Monday Night Football is the Commanders and Chiefs, and this is just going to be a bloodbath. I mean, I know it's Halloween. Halloween is coming up here, so that's kind of what the NFL is looking for. But you want to talk about a game where just you could not have two more opposite storylines coming into this team, where on Monday Night Football you have the Chiefs flying high. They get their first shutout since 2011. Okay. And now they're coming against the Commanders team, who not only did Jaden Daniels get injured, Marcus Mariota get injured. You still have Terry McLaurin, who's banged up. Debo Samuel got banged up last game. And now you have the Chiefs, who are coming in high, favorited at 10.5 points. And then also, last time we saw Patrick Mahomes on Monday Night Football, it was against the Jacksonville Jaguars with Trevor Lawrence. And he kind of wants to make up for that, because generally Patrick Mahomes is going to be one of the best performers in football when it comes to primetime games. So overall, just a weird week when it comes to the NFL. We only have 3 games in the 4 o'clock slate. And then Monday Night Football looks like it's going to be pretty sad. And then we also have Thursday Night Football, which is going to be Chargers and Vikings. So now we have Chargers, Vikings, Broncos, Cowboys, Packers, and Steelers, which is a electric matchup if you're a Boomers. All the Boomers are going crazy for that one. And then we have Monday Night Football with Chiefs and Commanders wrapping up the week. I feel like that's a pretty brutal stretch of primetime games, but we'll see how it plays out. But the Texans, they scored in this game. They went for 2. Does not look like they got it. But it's now 12-17 at Seattle, so definitely keep an eye on that one. Still waiting for Brick to come back. We'll see if he's able to fix his internet issues. I think he should be restarting it. So we'll see if he comes back, but I think he's restarting it. And then tomorrow, waiting for him to deal with his technical difficulties and come back, we have the NBA starting, and you have the Rockets and Thunder, and they have the ring ceremony with Kevin Durant's first game with the Houston Rockets, and the NBA decided to put Kevin Durant in Oklahoma City, where he made his career there. That's where Kevin Durant became a household name. Everyone, I feel like, his favorite high school team, favorite NBA team when they were in high school, at least in my era, in middle school, was the Thunder. High school is probably the Warriors. And then you have Kevin Durant having to see the Oklahoma City Thunder get their rings for the first time, and having to see that he wasn't the one that brought him there to do it. It's going to be quite the experience. And then we have Lakers coming out. I don't think LeBron's going to play. He's had a issue with sciatica, aka LeBron is old, and they're going to rest him this season, which I like for the Lakers, especially when you're dealing with the older LeBron James. There's no reason to have him on the court playing 40 minutes, but we're going to see skinny Luka. We're going to see DeAndre Ayton with the Lakers for the very first time going up against the Warriors with Jimmy Butler. So should be a fun start to the NBA season. Overall, coming into it, you have your teams like the Rockets, who are looking like a dark horse team. I think just with their size alone and having Ime Udoka as your head coach, they're going to be a tough matchup, especially having Sengun playing power forward, Kevin Durant starting at small forward. I mean, you're going to have a team where pretty much everyone, 4-year starters, are going to be over 6'8". So that'll be tough, especially for the NBA, who's kind of going small right now to compete with. And then you have the Warriors. This year it's tough because Jimmy Butler's been injured, Steph Curry's been injured, so Steve Kerr's pretty much left the door open to walking with the Warriors, where it feels like, maybe if it doesn't work out this season, he'll end up walking. Steph Curry goes his own separate ways. We'll see if it blows up with the Warriors. And then in the East, we have the Knicks. Okay. And the Knicks were the most consistent team right now with Jason Tatum and Tyrese Halliburton. And those are really the only players that have been standing in their way, especially Jason Tatum. He's kind of just run the East at this point. And then Tyrese Halliburton is probably going to be out for most of the year. We don't know if Jason Tatum's going to come back or how effective he's going to be when he comes back. So that'll be something to see play out, because for Boston, you're looking at a team where now you have Jaylen Brown, you have Anthony Simmons on your team, you have Peyton Pritchard, who just won Sixth Man of the Year, and he's been training hard in the offseason. Derek White there still. Is this going to be a team that's going to be able to surprise a lot of people, especially with you have someone like Nami Quetta. You made a huge trade for Luke Garza in the offseason, and then you could potentially trade for Bam Adebayo this season. So we'll see how it plays out for Boston. But just talking a little bit of NBA while waiting for you to come on, talking about Kevin Durant being in Oklahoma City for the ring ceremony. It's painful that Adam Silver had to do that to him. And then also talking about the Celtics, if Jason Tatum comes back, and then potentially trading Sam Hauser and Anthony Simmons for Bam Adebayo.
That could be really good. I feel like, especially now that we have Al Horford going to Golden State, they definitely need some big men. I think the Celtics are going to be surprisingly pretty good this season with just Derek White and Jaylen Brown. I think they'll still be a 4 or 5 seed. And then the fact that they put for the first game of the NBA season is the ring ceremony for the Thunder, and they're playing Kevin Durant with the Rockets. This is what makes the NBA the best when it comes to toxic shit talk, classic just games that we're going to see here. So, I mean, I'm excited to see Kevin Durant with Houston and see how he pairs with Sengun, but it's going to be fun to watch. But I'm glad the NBA is back just in time as baseball enters the World Series and then hockey's picking up, but it's going to be great. And then we have Golden State in LA, which is always fun.
Yeah, and then we're glad that you're back on the streams after Cox tried to silence you, because I know they were just trying to silence your fury, because I took a look at the 4 o'clock slate with everyone else here. Only 3 games. One of those matchups is Colts-Titans, and that's going to be one of the games that is at 4:25, and then the game of the week is going to be Broncos and Cowboys, and then the other game is Bucks and Saints, and that's all we get for 4 o'clock. Only those 3 games. So at this point, I might just go out to see Broncos and Cowboys, because like Saints and Buccaneers, if the Buccaneers lose, that'll be shocking. That'll be panic button. Are the injuries catching up to them? I don't think they will. And then we have the Colts, who are 14-point favorites versus the Titans. Like, I get that 6 teams are on bye, but this is all you could give us, really?
I thought the 4 o'clock slate sucked this past week, but you have two of the worst teams in the NFL facing two of the best teams in the NFL. I think we already talked about Saints and Bucks. I think the Bucks get the win. Colts and Titans, that's insane. And I think if the Colts cover the spread, they're going to continue to show that they're one of the best teams, if not the best team in the AFC currently, with at least how they've played against their competition. And then Broncos and Cowboys. Please, for the love of God, this is the only game I have hope for. Can this game be good? I think it will be. Can the Broncos wake up before the fourth quarter this game? I hope so. But the Cowboys, Cowboys alone could cover that 40-point spread, the 49.5. So I like the Cowboys in that game. I just feel like the Cowboys, the Broncos record at 5-2, I just feel like it's just not legitimate. I know they have a good defense, and Bo Nix is a enigma of a quarterback, but I like to think the Cowboys get the win. I just want to see them in the playoffs, and maybe this is my bias seeping in, but give me the Cowboys to beat them at the Mile High.
Yeah, I took the Broncos to win, so we'll see how that plays out there. And then I was also upset they're probably saving, like trying to tamper down some of your fury, but you should be upset because we have Chiefs and Commanders on Monday Night Football. I get it's a little bit too early in the season to flex, and I get that Halloween is also later that week, but that game is going to be a bloodbath. If the Chiefs got embarrassed by Trevor Lawrence stumbling twice into the end zone on prime time, and now they're shutting people out. I think that was the moment that really did it for Mahomes, where he flipped his lid after seeing Trevor double stumble into the end zone, and I think that was really the breaking point for this team.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I'm going to follow this game on the iPad, but we also have the World Series at this time. And I don't think if the Commanders don't have, not only they might not have Jaden Daniels, but they also might not have Marcus Mariota in this game or Terry McLaurin or Debo Samuel. And you're facing the defending AFC champion and the dynasty of the NFL. Like, that's just not fair at this point. Flex this game, make it a better game. But the Chiefs at 10.5. That's an obvious pick for me. But it just feels mean to the Commanders for a team that was the hottest team and most exciting team last year. But nonetheless, I think the Chiefs win that game easily. Have we talked about Packers Steelers yet?
Yeah, a little bit. Talked about how boomers are going to be going crazy over this matchup. This is like the classic NFL like 60s, 70s matchup, but you have Jordan Love facing off against Aaron Rodgers in this one, and I think the Packers have kind of been sleepwalking through the last few games, but what I did say is Jordan Love is someone who does turn it up and takes it to a different level when it comes to prime time. I think Matt LaFleur will also be a little bit motivated in this game. And if that's how bad your offense looked against Joe Flacco, Jordan Love, he still played pretty well this season, I think, especially Josh. If that's what, the Bengals run game was able to do, I think Josh Jacobs will be able to have a nice outing.
Yeah, I think so too. I think the Packers should be the favorites. They're a favorite at 3.5. This is going to be hopefully an amazing game. I wouldn't be surprised if the Steelers steal it here, but Packers with their defense, I trust their defense a lot more. Jordan Love on prime time is not somebody I'm going to bet against. And I think Josh Jacobs has been one of the best running backs in the league this year. So I will take them here. The Steelers, I don't know if I can see another Pat Freiermuth game like we saw. And I think the Packers can contain Jalen Warren. So really, if they can contain DK, then I think they should be able to get the win considerably against the Steelers. So I'll take the Packers to cover.
Yeah, so it should be a good Sunday night football game, but a very bizarre Thursday night game, a bloodbath on Monday night, and just probably one of the worst 4 o'clock slates in the history of the NFL because there's a chance that the Broncos or the Cowboys might not make the playoffs.
Yeah, there's a chance that neither of these teams make it, but at least it'll be a fun game. I feel like as long as the Broncos offense can wake up, we know the Cowboys will with what they have. So hopefully it's a high scoring, fun 4 o'clock slate because the other games just don't look appealing at all.
Yeah, but that is week 7. We recapped every game there. We have 6 teams on bye in week 8. We're almost at the halfway point of the NFL season already. It's gone by so fast. Been a great year so far. But other than that, what have you been watching or listening to this week? Any scary movies for Halloween this month?
Not yet, but I did get invited to the Playboy Cardi concert on Friday. Free concert in the Sun Suite. So lots of beer that was comped and free for us. Free food. Food was very good. And after about 10 beers, it was still not worth the money. But fun concert. I like loud music, and that's exactly what I heard. I don't think I understood a word they said, but you know what? After 10 beers, Playboy Cardi sounds a little bit more enjoyable. It does make me feel you're at a concert that you're not necessarily a fan of the artist. When you're there, you're like, oh, this would be really sick if it was somebody else. And that's kind of how it was for me. Like Ken Carson was his opener, and I'm like, oh, that would be really sick if it was like Baby Keem or Travis Scott. And then when Playboy Cardi was playing, I'm like, oh, that would be really sick if that was Travis Scott instead of Playboy Cardi, or if it was Denzel Curry, or there's plenty of more people I could list, JPEG Mafia, for example. But instead, it was Playboy Cardi, and I've seen him now twice now because he was the opener for the weekend, and I can confidently say that none of his concerts have been worth the money at all. And he is not a good performer live. If you're in the pit, maybe it's more exciting for you if you're a Playboy Cardi fan. But yeah, it was one of those shows that I left midway through his set. I'm like, yeah, I got my money's worth. How much did I spend? $0. But if I spent like $30, I would have probably wanted my money back.
Yeah, especially like that style of music live usually doesn't go too well. And did the weekend have to cut him from the tour too?
Yeah, he did. And now the tour's over. Now he's touring with Ken Carson and some other people like him. But yeah, it's fun. I mean, and then another thing I saw is I went to a soccer game on Saturday, another free ticket, but $1 beers. So my two events that I went out for, one was completely free, and then the other one had $1 beers. And I can say with soccer, if you drink like 6 beers, it's a lot more enjoyable. Not a lot goes on at that game, but we have fun.
So like for Playboy Cardi though, like was it full there? Like were people like into it? Did it seem like, or
Um,
was it kind of like weird?
the pit people were going at it, but those people are all like 15. But the rest of the arena was not as filled as I thought it would be. You could have gotten tickets for $25. And for someone as big as Playboy Cardi, you would think that it would be a little bit higher selling. But yeah, like a lot of people in the pit were kind of confused by a lot of his music, those being big fans. But yeah, he just doesn't know how to get the crowd going like that. He just kind of yells throughout the entire time, doesn't sing his song, doesn't rap his music. So I just feel like when you're watching a performer like that, you don't really get motivated or into the music very much. And again, like if you're at a concert and you're like, damn, I wish this was somebody else, that's not the guy you want to spend $100 on, you know? And I didn't spend anything, so that was fine for me. But like I was watching the show, I'm like, this would be really sick if it was Travis Scott. Travis Scott has similar type of music, like it's trap, but at least with Travis, it's like I know he puts on a show. Um, and I like his music a lot more. But I'm just the whole time I'm like, this would be really sick if it was Travis Scott or um even I feel like maybe even Young Thug would have been better, but yeah, it's Playboy Cardi is not a good artist.
Yeah. I mean, I've walked out on Young Thug live before. Like 3 songs in, I left.
Yeah, and I don't imagine Young Thug's great live, but Playboy Cardi, like I don't like his music. I really don't. Like he just is not. I don't want to. I mean, for somebody who makes music for a living, I don't want to call them untalented, but he just doesn't make quality music, and I don't think he's a good artist.
Yeah, I mean, like, God bless him, for being able to make money making music because, like, I listen to his stuff and, like, I don't get it. Maybe it's me just getting old at 24 years old, like, not understanding what the kids are listening to this day. But, like, I miss the wave with, like, Future, Young Thug, Playboy Cardi. Like, yeah, I'm happy that you're able to vibe out to that style of music, but I just can't. Like, you just put it on and it's like, it feels
I
like
don't
it's
get it.
slowing time down. It feels like I stepped into another dimension and time is slower and I get stupider at the same
It feels like
time.
Jets
And
and
then
Panthers.
it feels like Jets and Panthers. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a London game, but for music, which that's just not a good experience. I can say this is unrelated to what we're talking about, but I can confirm because I've been getting back into baseball this year. This has been like the year, this has been the renaissance of baseball for me. I can confidently say that the worst of the worst sport to watch, like the best of the best, obviously, like football takes the cake. And then obviously, like playoff baseball is great, playoff basketball is great, whatever. But the worst of each sport, football at its worst is the worst grueling thing to watch. I do not want to watch a 3-2 Jets and Panthers game. It's just miserable, and it makes perfect sense why the XFL and UFL don't work because bad football is just a drag to watch, punt after punt. Whereas like bad baseball, I'll watch and it's fine. Bad basketball is more or less comical more often than not, but like bad football is some shit that I would put in like Alcatraz for people to watch.
Yeah, even like you have to like not only think of the home viewing experience, but the experience if you're there. Because think about a bad football game that's like 6-3, but you're there with what like 25,000 people and they're all hammered. They've all been
Yes.
drinking all day to
Hmm.
come to a game where they're just watching the two teams punt it back and forth. Where what really is a bad basketball game, if not just kind of comedic genius by accident? I mean, a bad NBA game like can be pretty funny if you're there in person. Baseball, um, you're not really there for the game. You're just there for baseball is kind of just embodies what a summer night kind of is. So that's kind of the experience. It doesn't really matter how high scoring it is, but football, it's just like you're there with that many people who have been jumping into tables all day.
Yeah, and I just feel like with baseball, it's usually cheap if you're going to watch a bad game too. So you're not going to be upset that you're watching a, 1-0 game because it's $4 most likely.
Football could be like $300-400 though.
Yeah, and you're watching a god awful game. Like bad football is the worst sport to watch. Obviously, at the best of its powers, like Chiefs and Bills, Ravens and Bengals, whatever it might be, that's peak. But worst of the worst, football at its worst is terrible, which is makes perfect sense why the XFL sucks. But outside of that, what have you been watching?
Yeah, I watched couple scary movies this weekend, but one that stood out was, do you ever watch Sinister when it came out?
Yeah, Sinister's sick.
Yeah, I watched that movie. I had watched it once, and then it was when I was like watching movies on my Kindle Fire, like when Kindle Fire had like an actual competitor to tablet. So that was back in like when it first came out. Probably been over 10 years since I've watched it, but it's essentially about this writer who moves his family into the house of a crime scene. He's kind of done something like this before where he's moved them into a tragedy and then these tapes appear. He starts watching these tapes and then he just starts seeing all of these gruesome murders play out. I am going to talk about spoilers since it's been out for over 13 years, but this guy is has to be one of the dumbest people of all time. You move into a house where four people got hung on a tree together. What type of freaky cult shit is that? Where you move your family into that house? How is that not haunted? You're just like, yeah, my kid who already has night terrors, we're gonna move them into that house and kind of just slowly watching him go insane this movie. I got chills a couple times watching this, but like this movie was like a adrenaline burn start to finish. Like the whole atmosphere of it was cool, especially after they move out. And especially rewatching it, there's a lot of things that I forgot in this movie that come up. You kind of have your tropes where you have the ghost kids in it, but just like the kind of creativity with this. I like his banter back and forth with the cop who's like trying to get like a citation or a notation in his book.
Yeah. It's been a long time. So I probably saw it around the same time that you did, but I remember it being like a good scary movie when I enjoyed it. Like, I remember it being a solid movie overall that I would probably recommend to people.
Yeah, it's on Hulu right now. So essentially, he's like watching these tapes, and then essentially, if you watch the tapes of the murder, it essentially marks your family for death, and he's trying to figure out these different crime scenes and connect them together. So essentially, every time you move into a house and then move out of it, all the families had lived in like a crime scene house, like connected to the other family, going all the way back to 1960. And so he moves his family into a house and then watches the videotapes, which essentially curses them. And then the youngest child always kills the family. And then he doesn't realize it. And the cop is trying to call him every day because he figures it out, but he doesn't pick up the phone until the end of the movie. And then as soon as he realizes it, just passes out. And then I like that this movie doesn't have a happy ending.
No, it shouldn't have a good happy ending by any means. I feel like horror movies are supposed to end in terror and just gruel, and that's it. Like, why are we going to end a movie with a happy ending for a horror movie? That's not what we want. I don't want the demons to be exorcised. Kill them all.
That's my like biggest, I guess, criticism with the horror genre. Like it can be like pretty tropey, but every genre is. But when you're like going for a happy ending or you're just trying to write a happy ending and then it kind of becomes cartoonish where you build up this creepy unbeatable monster and then they kind of like fumble through it and then oh yeah we invented this magic trick to beat the monster that was just terrorizing you. Like no, sometimes the monster just terrorizes everyone and wins and that's it, and that's how it happens most of the time. Like it's fine not to have a happy ending, especially in a horror movie.
Yeah. It's like what Chris Collinsworth would say. It's like Patrick Mahomes in the NFL. That's kind of like, that's just what it is. And I feel like the tape for me was just the Jets and Panthers game. Like, that's the tape that cursed their teams and their eyes and their families. So fun watch. I got to watch some horror movies this week. I'm going to be up in Sedona with the family. So good time to watch a horror movie. My mom's not necessarily a horror type, but maybe we can watch like one of the cornier ones, the ones that aren't that scary, like the Nightmare on Elm
Yeah.
Streets or
We
whatever.
watched
Something like that.
Monster House too. I hadn't seen that before, so that'd be a good movie.
Classic. Monster House
That
is
movie's
good. Not
creepy.
scary,
The
but fun.
animation's so weird.
Or maybe Coraline. Coraline could be fun. That's not necessarily scary, but it's like gothic kind of, so that kind of fits into it a little bit. Nightmare Before Christmas, maybe. Although that's not a Christmas movie or a Halloween movie.
It's like up for debate. I think a lot of people watch it for both, especially people who are like really into horror.
I
Same
think
with
it
like
fits. I think it's
Violent
Christmas.
Night or like the Krampus. Did you watch like the Krampus movie, like the modern day one?
I haven't seen Krampus, but you and I saw Violent Night in theaters.
Yeah.
That was good. But yeah, we have recapped week 7. We have previewed week 8, worst and best according to the Brickyard, and then what we've been watching. So make sure to check us out next Tuesday as we go live to cover all the games. No 2 Monday night games, which is a blessing in disguise in my mind. Finally, I don't have a game that's going on till fucking midnight. So thank you there. But most importantly, before we end our show, stay brick.